Hi, poets and quants. My name is Betsy Masser, and I'm here with Pamela Jaffe and our candidate for business school. Pamela and I are the B-School Bossypants. So we are here to boss around our candidate and tell him what is right for him, where he should be, not necessarily where he should be applying, but talking to him about where he is the best fit for what school, and a little bit more about admissions in general, MBA admissions in general. I am founder of Master Admissions, and I have an MBA from Harvard Business School. I worked on Wall Street. I was also a Stanford Business School leadership communications coach. In the last several decades, I have worked also in Asia, in Asian finance, and then when I came back here to the US and worked more in finance, I started my firm during the last financial crisis, 2008, and I've been working with admissions, MBA admissions for students for the last 10 or 12 years in mostly the top business schools and also some top part-time programs. Pamela?
Hi everyone, my name is Pamela Jaffe. I'm founder of Jaffe Advantage. I went to Columbia Business School pre-MBA. I was working in advertising. After I finished my MBA, I worked in both strategy consulting and internal strategy for a variety of Fortune 500 companies. I've also worked abroad, mostly in Asia and Europe, and I've been an MBA admissions consultant since 2010, so going on a decade.
Oh, look at us. All right, well, we have our candidate here, Trent, who he is interested in a couple of different schools, more than just a couple. So why don't you tell us where you went to undergraduate school and your scores, because that's what everybody wants to know about, and also what your target schools are, and we will then tell you what's the right thing for you to do.
Sounds good. My name's Trent. I went to Emory for undergrad. I had a 3.3 out of the business program there. My GRE scores were a 167 verbal and a 165 quant.
That's
and
nice.
I'm applied to Tuck, Darden, Ross, and Texas.
There you go. That sounds really sounds great. Okay, and now tell us a little bit about what you were doing or what you have been doing before applying to business school.
Yeah, of course. So before I applied, I started 2 years at Bloomberg out of undergrad and then transitioned to working at a hedge fund. I do risk management for the hedge fund, which at our firm is pretty fintech based, a little bit of everything, building applications to help the firm run.
That's fantastic. Now, Pamela, did you tell me that Trent has a CFA?
Yeah, he has a CFA in alternative investments, right? Trent, can you explain?
Not my CFA. So I passed levels 1 and 2 of the CFA exam, but my charter for alternative investments is it's called the CAIA, the Chartered Alternative Investment Analyst. So it's similar to the CFA program, but it focuses entirely on alts.
So as John Byrne would say, this guy's a quant, right?
Yes.
More of a quant than a poet. And so we might be a little bit worried about the 3.3 because it's not the highest GPA, but I think that you're mitigated by a couple of things. And one is you came out of the business program, so they know you can do the work. You also have levels 1 and levels 2 for the CFA. So I think that they also know that you're really sort of quantitative and understand sort of how the analytics work. So I don't think that there's really any worry about that. And your GRE scores are really very good. So you're mostly a quant in that you have a financial background, but I think that there's more to you than that. Wouldn't you say, Pamela?
Yeah, and also, Betsy, another thing I'd add is that, he's really looking at sort of poet schools. I mean, yes, they want people who are quantitative in nature, but Tuck, Darden, Ross, they look at the whole picture. They want a holistic person. So they want to make sure you can do the quant work, but they're not just looking for pure quants.
You bet. And so let me say this one thing. If Tuck is it was the first school mentioned, so I'm not going to ask if it's your favorite school, but if it is a school that you're serious about going to, the one thing that Tuck's really, really concerned about, okay, we know that they like students who are very collaborative and nice, because the word nice is in the application prompt. The question is have you done your homework on Tuck? Do you think, have you visited Hanover, or at least in the days when you could visit a school? And also, have you talked to enough Tuckies, and do you feel like maybe you have enough information of what being a Tuckie means?
I mean, I think I do. I hope I do. As far as like collaborative work, I was elected the captain of my lacrosse team in college. So hopefully that shows that, my peers at least respect my opinion. As far as getting out to
Yeah,
campus, my uncle actually went to Tuck. So the first time I was up there, I was 7 years old, and I've been back more than a few times. I went up to interview in the fall, and I actually went to elementary school with a guy who's a first year there now. So I was able to connect with him when I went up for my interview, and have sort of been going back and forth with him, connecting with other students throughout the year as I went through the application process.
Pamela, I'm more impressed that this guy, that Trent, is friends with somebody that he knew in elementary school. I mean, I'm not even friends with anybody that I knew.
I know. I don't think I'm friends with anyone from elementary school, but I think it's really important because, Tuck really looks for people who are going to understand the community. It's a small school. It's in a rural town. It's not a huge university. And it really only works if everyone in that community is a true Tuckie. And they're looking for people who are going to be true Tuckies and who understand what Tuck is. And it sounds like you're that person.
I think that sounds like a really good fit for you. And I think that also looking at the other schools, Ross and Darden, I think both of them are real personality driven schools. They're real sort of community driven schools. Are you a member of that community? And I think that the way you've described your background, that really helps us understand that I could see you also in Ann Arbor, playing lacrosse in the among the leaves or whatever, as well as Darden. I guess given the fact that you're applying to both Darden and Tuck, just as an example, you're really not trying to be in the center of a metropolis. Is that right?
It's less that I'm not trying to be in the center of the metropolis, and more that, when I spoke to people during the application process, I heard a lot of people talk about how schools in big cities, especially where people lived before they went, they sort of fell back into old routines when they were not in class. So when they were done studying, they'd go hang out with old friends. And what I kind of wanted to look for was a school where I would really get to mesh with the group of kids that I was there with. So, really getting to know the people that I'm classmates with, learning from them, spending as much time with them as possible, because we've got 2 years, I want to take advantage of that as much as I can.
I think that sounds really, really.
And Betsy, what else I like about Trent's profile? You were telling me you sail a lot too, right? Which is so community oriented as well. I thought that was really interesting. I mean, you're looking at these schools that are community oriented and like sports, and you were, did lacrosse, and now you sail and run. I just think it's a fantastic fit.
I think that's right. So one of the things we are now talking to you in the middle of the shelter in place, at least for me in California.
And New York.
Yes, we're in shelter, and you also in New York, Trent. We're looking at a weird round 3 or round 4. Okay, you've already gotten your applications in for round 3, which is like right around this week. What about, are you looking at something like, having said, I'm going to completely ask you to contradict yourself, having said all of that about small towns and all of that about staying in the same place, are you at all interested in a Columbia or an NYU?
Yeah, well, and again, it's not that I was trying to avoid metropolises. It's just that I was drawn to the idea of something else. But, given that this new opportunity sort of presented itself to myself and any other applicants, I think that, it would be wrong to ignore the opportunity. So it doesn't make any sense to not keep as many doors open. If it takes a little bit of time when I'm, sheltered in place to write another application and I feel that I can put my best work forward, why not?
So you're applying to Columbia, right?
The plan is to apply to Columbia.
Okay,
yes.
so let's talk about Columbia. Betsy, should I take this one? I love talking about Columbia.
Pamela, as a Columbia MBA who happens to live in New York City and has worked very well with a lot of Columbia students, I've worked with Columbia people too, I will admit, but Pamela is a Columbia guru, so I'm going to let her carry this one.
So Columbia is an interesting one. Columbia manages their yield. They're the only school that has an early decision process, and they also work on rolling admissions. Long story short, most people who are admitted to Columbia, with a few exceptions, have turned their applications in by October. They already know who's enrolled in the school. But like many schools, unfortunately, they're worried that some students might need to, for various reasons, drop out or defer to the next year. So they're reopening their application process, and it's a really unique opportunity for somebody who didn't apply in October
Right.
and didn't have their scores ready to do it. The one thing I will say though is they're not changing their standards. And one thing about Columbia is they want to know, just like Tuck, that if they admit you to Columbia, you really want to go to Columbia. And given that you can't actually visit Columbia and you live in New York, that's going to pose a little bit of a challenge. So, I don't know if you spend any time talking to people in Columbia, but one of the things I'd really recommend is to do your research in the next month. Yeah, so I mean, the thing is, as you said, Betsy, the second essay is asking about Columbia, but one of the mistakes I've seen so many people make is just listing a lot of things that they would do at Columbia, and that's not what Columbia is looking for. They want to see if inherently you're a good fit for the school and you inherently understand the school, which means going beyond the surface. So
Yeah, so they're not looking, so basically they're not looking for, I want to join this club, I want to join that. I mean, maybe you want to mention it, but
they know you can get that on the website.
Yeah, and they also want to understand whether you, just like Tuck, appreciate what the kind of personality is that comprises the Tuck community, the Columbia community. So
yeah, do you
have you
inherently
had, I know, you're in New York and you have a lot of friends, in New York probably who are Columbia MBAs, but have you been talking to them about your prospects?
Yeah, so just like I reached out to my friend who's at Tuck, I actually just got back from a wedding with 2 CBS grads. So I've been speaking to them about the entire process, sort of talking to them about, hey, I know I was a little late with the MBA process and missed the boat to apply early, but now that this is happening, what are your guys' thoughts? Should I, given that I'm interested, take a stab at it again? And they've been sort of giving me some insight on that.
They're marrying each other. 2 CBS grads are marrying each other, and they're like, and you're like trying to get them to talk about like your application. Okay.
Well, not at the wedding, but just
right. Oh, do you take this man? Yeah, I do. Yeah, okay. Anyway, all right. We are now running out of time. Thank you so much for watching the B-School Bossypants. Thank you, Pamela. Thank you, Trent. And everybody, stay safe and wash your hands.